Hello everyone. Now we are starting with a new topic, that is war mapping. Okay. Now what is this war mapping? If we'll just think of our credit risk part, there what we try to do, there we try to make the different factors on which our credit risk depend. Rather than managing the whole credit risk, what we try to do, we try to manage those factors, because it is easy to manage the factors rather than all the assets into the portfolio. Suppose you have 1000 assets into the portfolio. Okay, now managing the credit risk of all the assets in the portfolio is quite difficult. Okay, but if you'll try to find out the different factors, say there are 5 factors which are affecting and which can be the reason of risk to the portfolio, then what you will do, you will try to manage the risk of these factors. These factors can be interest rate changes, it can be foreign exchange changes, okay, equity price changes. So there can be different factors which can impact the assets. Okay, so in this topic what we try to do, we will be calculating the war. Okay, see, when we are into the market risk, our target is to know what is my value at risk. Okay, now the portfolio with thousands of assets, with different class of assets, so do you really think it is really possible to calculate the war of each of the assets and then finding out the correlation between each assets and then taking out the war of the portfolio? It's quite difficult. So now what we will do, we will take all the factors which are going to affect the war of the portfolio, and then what we will do, we will try to manage those factors so that we can reduce our risk. Clear? So this chapter is all about the market like war mapping. Clear? Now first of all we will see that what are the topics we need to cover in this chapter. Okay, so we'll start with the first line. This reading introduces the concept of mapping a portfolio. Means what you are doing, you are mapping the portfolio, and the portfolio is very complex. Portfolio have the multiple assets, and now we are mapping them into a different risk factor. Okay, this is the main topic of our chapter. Now what are the things which we are going to cover in this chapter is that we need to know that what is the mapping process for different kinds of portfolio. It can be fixed income portfolio, or it can be the portfolio which consists linear and non-linear derivative. Means what are the two things we are going to study in this chapter, that how we map the different assets into the portfolio. It can be fixed income, it can be linear or non-linear derivative. So we need to know the process. Okay, this is our first part. Next we will know that how mapping will simplify the risk management. Okay, this is some theories kind of stuff, that how mapping will simplify the risk. We will see 5 to 6 points and then the things will over. Next we need to know what is the difference between the general and the specific risk factor. Now we are dividing the whole risk into two categories. One is the general and the other one is the specific. And next, when we are calculating our war, okay, now understand that the main motive of the chapter is to calculate war. Means at the end we have to calculate war, but now in a different manner. Earlier we have seen, we have used parametric, non-parametric, historical simulation, then we have done back testing, but now we're trying to do something to manage our risk. Okay, it is for the management of the risk that we are mapping our war, and then we are calculating our diversified and undiversified war. Undiversified means there is the one correlation between the two assets is 1, means both the assets are perfectly correlated. Okay, but when it comes to the diversified war, the correlation is less than 1, means we can have the benefit of correlation. So value at risk will be lower as compared to our undiversified war. So let's start again, that mapping can assist a risk manager in evaluating the positions whose characteristics may change over time. Means when I am talking about the fixed income securities, we know that how the values of fixed income securities change so frequently. Okay, so they are completely dynamic. So when I say about the war, previously we have studied that war is useful for static portfolio. Okay, when I will say that my portfolio is dynamic, war will not be that much useful. But the benefit is that now we are not using the market value of our portfolio, we are mapping them to our risk factors. Okay, whatever the risk factors we have, we are mapping them. This is the first benefit, that we are managing the risk now, not the portfolio's market value. Next, we don't need any historical data. Means, suppose I am saying about a particular IPO. Okay, for the particular IPO we don't have any kind of historical data. So now how we will calculate the VAR? Because VAR is dependent upon the historical data. Now I will say, suppose there is a new Reliance is a new company, just assume. Okay, so now it's coming into the market and I want to know that if I'll include the Reliance industry into my portfolio, how much risk my how much by how much amount the risk of the portfolio is increasing. This I want to know, but I don't have any kind of previous data. What I will do, I will take all the risk factors. Okay, the risk factors such as interest rate, such as foreign currency exchange, commodity pricing, oil pricing, all those factors I am including, and on that basis I will try to calculate the VAR of the Reliance industry. So I don't need the historical data of Reliance industry, I just need what are the factors. Okay, now I am focusing only on factors. Understand the basic theme what we are going to do. So now let us understand that what are the benefits we are getting from the VAR mapping. Okay, so first of all, I have already told you that it is impractical to consider each position separately. So what we are doing, suppose if there are thousands of assets into the portfolio, just find out what are the factors which are going to affect the risk and just try to capture and manage those factors, and by managing those factors you will be able to manage the risk of the portfolio. Clear? Now our next point is also related to our first point. Means, if in our portfolio if we have thousands of position and they all are linked to the specific exchange rate, say rupee per dollar, means our portfolio is very sensitive to the change in this exchange rate. So this is our risk. So rather than managing the whole portfolio, I will try to manage and hedge the risk which is coming through the changes in the exchange rate. Clear? Next, in our VAR risk management, there are two things. When we are mapping our VAR, means our risk, into the different factors, there is no role of the price. Means we don't have anything to think about the price. Now we have to think about the number of position and we need to link them to the risk factors. Clear? So price is not of any relevant to us. Now what is relevant to us? The number of positions, and we have to link them to the risk factors. Clear? Next, if there is any changes, okay, VAR mapping will help us or will be useful for measuring any changes over the time, whether it's the bonds or with the options. Clear? For example, means when the bonds matures, okay, risk exposure can be mapped to the spot yield that reflect to the current position. Means whatever your current position will be, means we are taking the present value of the situations and then we are mapping them into the risk. Clear? And VAR mapping is useful when the historical data is not available. We have already seen this. Now suppose we have 5 different kinds of assets into the portfolio and we have 3 risk factors, say exchange rate, interest rate and oil price. These are the 3 risk factors. Now 5 assets and we are taking the market value of all the assets and then we are trying to map these. Means our first asset is linked to exchange rate and the interest rate. My second asset is linked with none, means there is no risk factor to which we can map it. Clear? When it comes to the third, it is into risk factor 2 and risk factor 3. 4 is also not linked to anyone, but yes, 5 is again linked to 2 and 3. So now what we can do to manage our risk of 1, 3 and 5, we can manage only these 3 factors, and by managing these 3 factors we can easily manage our 3 assets. Clear? And now in order to manage our assets 4 and asset 2, we need to create some other factor on which they are dependent, and then we have to manage them. Okay, so now we can say that this is our risk model, okay, in which we have taken all their investment, we have taken the market values, and these all our risk factors. Okay, so now what we are trying to do, we are taking the market value of the investment one and we are trying to map the risk. So now we will start with our general and specific risk. Now understand this general and specific risk, I will try to give you a best way. Suppose this is my portfolio and there are 5 securities available. Now these 5 securities, they can have many risk factors, but if I will take these 2 risk factor, my 98.5% of the risk is covered. Now in the remaining risk factor, we are having only 1.5% risk factor. Okay, so now what we will do, we will take only those 2 risk factor which are of the huge amount, which can impact the portfolio by the huge amount. Means we are not concerned much about the 1.5%, but yes, we are concerned about 98.5%. Why so? You have to understand, by managing many risk factors, it will be quite complicated, rather than it will be most useful and most beneficial, most efficient when we are using only a few numbers of risk factors, say 2 or 3. So now what is this 1.5? I can say it is the residual risk. Means this is the risk which is not captured by this 98.5%. Clear? So now what is our specific risk? So this is basically our unsystematic risk, or we can say the asset specific risk of various position in the portfolio. Means if I'll be having 5 different position in the portfolio, everyone have their asset specific risk. For that I don't account the 5 different risk factors, so I will leave them open. So this is my specific risk. Clear? Now suppose I have a portfolio of bonds, okay, and within this portfolio bond, I'll try to hedge the risk of the bond portfolio just by taking the duration only. So duration will cover suppose only 60% of the risk. So we can see that our specific risk, that is 40%, is of huge amount. So now I try to include some other risks such as the credit risk, okay, and that include our 20%. Still my specific risk is 20%. So now again I have decided that I will use some other risks such as currency risk, and that will include 18%. Now the specific risk is 2%. So can you see, here the specific risk was 40, here 20, and now it's 2. So my specific risk is going smaller and smaller when I try to add more general risk. These are the general risks which account for the huge amount of risk. Clear? Now let us take an example. Suppose you have the equity portfolio which consists of 5,000 stocks. So now when you have to calculate the correlation, okay, you need to find out 12.5 million covariance terms. So do you think this number of covariance are easy to calculate and easy to handle? Obviously it's not, because obviously if we are talking about the portfolio as a whole, we need to take into account the correlation. In order to calculate the correlation, we need to find out the covariance, okay, between each risk factor. So now to simplify this, what we can do, we all know that diversification will reduce the firm specific component. Means whatever there is a firm specific part, that will be reduced. What we are left with only with the market risk, that is the systematic risk or the beta risk. Clear? So now what we can do, we will take each stock and then we will divide them, we will map them with the stock index, and this will greatly reduce the number of parameters needed. Now just giving a small example, okay, might not be in relation. Suppose those 5,000 stocks are there. Now I will divide them into further index like banking, oil, and energy, technology, then automobiles, and other you can say FMCG. Okay, now can you say if just by taking the risk factor of each of these sector is easy as compared to taking the risk factor of each 5000 stock? Obviously, when we have done the stock indexing, it is quite now easy for us to map the risk of the index rather than taking the whole 5000 stock. So when we are mapping our risk to the market index, so our market index is nothing but we are defining them as the primitive risk factor or the general risk factor. Clear? The risk exposure beta is computed. Now we need to find out the beta, means how much our returns are impacted. Okay, and then we are taking the return of the stock I, means this is the return of, we will be taking the return of 5000. So okay, so we will see that how much the beta is going to impact the return of that particular security. Now what is this part? This is nothing but our random error. Clear? Now see, we have two things here which we need to ignore. These two, the intercept term which have nothing to do with the risk, and the last term, that is our specific risk or the error which is not correlated with the other stock or the market portfolio. So we are removing them. What we are keeping? We are keeping only this part, that is the market and the beta. Means if I want to know the return of the portfolio, I will take the summation of all the returns. I will take the summation of all the returns. Now summation of all the returns will be equals to weight into beta into market plus weight into standard error. Okay, means we are assigning the weights to our specific risk, but they both are not correlated. If they are correlated, the things is that we need to take into the account the correlation, and then we have to take into account the square root. So we are assuming that the specific risk is independent with this part. Clear? Now we have the beta for particular stock, but now I want to know what is the beta of the portfolio as a whole. So what we will take? We will take the summation of all the betas by giving them as the weight. Now what will be the base? Based on the market weights of each position, means whatever the market weights of each position, that weight we are assigning to our beta. Suppose this is beta 2, weight 1, weight 2, beta 3 into weight 3, and taking the summation of all will be the beta of the portfolio. Clear? Suppose if I will say that beta 1 is 2, beta 2 is 1, beta 3 is 1.5. Now what is the weight of asset 1? Suppose I will say the weight is 30%, the weight is 40%, and the weight is again 30%. So we will get the beta after taking the weight into account. Now whatever the sum will come, that will be the beta of the portfolio. So till now we have seen about the return. Now what is happening with the return? But now we are moving in the variance part, means what is happening with the variance. So we are dividing our variance in two segments. One is the general, the other one is the specific. So variance of the return of that portfolio means what is the volatility of that return of the portfolio as a whole. Means we are taking the beta of the portfolio into variance plus we are taking the weights into sigma square. Clear? So see, here two components are included. One of the factor, that is the sigma. Okay, this is nothing but our specific risk. Okay, this is our specific risk, and this is our general market risk. Specific risk with respect to the particular security, and this is our general market risk. So we are taking the return of the market and we are multiplying that with the beta. Clear? And here we are taking the weights of individual security and multiplying the sigma of that individual security. Clear? We don't have any kinds of numerical on this, so just you have to remember this, that the variance of the return will include both the general market risk exposure as well as the specific risk exposure, and the specific risk exposure will include the sigma and the general risk will include the market risk. Let's see a small question: which of the following could be considered a general risk factor? So which one is the general risk factor? Zero coupon bond cannot be a factor. Okay, so our exchange rate will be a factor, so the answer will be A, 1 only. Now this is the most important part of the chapter when we are mapping the fixed income security. Now we are knowing that how we can map a fixed income security. So we have three methods of mapping a fixed income security. One is the principal, next is the duration, the third one is the cash flow. Okay, we don't have any kind of calculation for the cash flow mapping, but yes, we need to understand that how principal and duration mapping are working. Clear? So now let us start with our first one, that is principal mapping. Okay, so let me tell you, in case of principal mapping we are only concerned with the principal. Okay, and we are considering the risk of only the principal. We don't consider any other risk apart from the principal value. Clear? And this is one of the most easiest method to calculate. Okay, we just need to take the average value. Okay, means what is the average maturity. Now a small example is given here. We have a portfolio of two bonds. Okay, we have the portfolio of two bonds where we have a 1 year bond and the other with the coupon rate of 3.5%, and we have invested 100 million. The second bond is of 5 year with the coupon of 5% and I have invested 100 million. So you can see that the weights of both the bonds are same. Now what is the average maturity? It will be simple, equal weights will be given plus 0.5 into 5 years. This is the weights, 0.5, 0.5. Now suppose if it would have been something else like say 300. Okay, so now the weights will be different. What will be the weights? Here the weights will be 3/4 and here the weights will be 1/4. Clear? So now we are having the same weights, so we are multiplying with 0.5 and our answer will be 3 years. Means the average maturity of our bond will be 3 years. Now we have the VAR percentage, means whatever will be the amount of the portfolio, on that basis we will be having the percentage of VAR with the 1 year maturity. Now what is this? Let me help you to understand first. And these percentage are given for 95% confidence interval. Okay, now suppose if I am saying that my portfolio is of $200 million, okay, with the maturity of 2 years. Now I want to calculate the VAR of the portfolio. It's completely simple. 200 into what is the VAR for 2 years? That is 0.9868%. That amount will be the VAR for me. Okay, so how much it's coming? 200 into 0.9868%. It is coming as 1.9736. This is the amount of VAR. Clear? So now you can see what is the maturity of the portfolio. The average maturity, the average life of this portfolio is 3 years. Now how you can calculate the VAR? For 3 years, what is the percentage of VAR? It is 1.4841. So first of all you can see, as the maturity is increasing, your VAR is also increasing. See, VAR is also increasing. So now with 3 years I have to multiply 200 with 1.4841%. So this is the amount of VAR. Means you have to understand that the main aim of this chapter is to calculate the VAR, but in different manner. The manner is that we are taking into account the different risk factor rather than just going with the market price. Clear? Now we are coming to our second method, that is we will calculate VAR with the help of duration method. Okay, so when I will say the duration method, so obviously I have to calculate the duration. Now how can I do so? Duration, I will take all the cash flow of the 5-year bond and the cash flow of the 1-year bond. The cash flow of the 1-year bond will stop in the 1 year itself, and the cash flow of the 5-year bond will be like this: coupon, 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 and then principal plus coupon. Now these are the spot rates given to us. So what we will do, we will take the present value of this 108.5. now this is my present value. I will take the present value of all the future cash flow, and the current value of all the current value means the present value of all the cash flows will be equal to our the current value of the portfolio, that is $200. Now in this part, what we are trying to do, we are multiplying this present value with the time. We are multiplying this present value with our time. Okay, and now we are taking the sum of all. We are taking the sum of all. Now understand what we are doing here. Now we need to calculate the duration. So this means PV, that is the present value of the cash flow, into T divided by the present value of the cash flow. Okay, so we are taking 553.69 divided by 200. So can you see what we will be left with? The answer that will be coming after dividing these two will be in terms of year. So now our duration is nothing but 2.768. After dividing this by this, we will get the duration is 2.768. But now when you will see this chart, you won't find the VAR percentage for 2.768. so it's somewhere in between. You need to do the interpolation. Okay, you need to take the 3 little lower and 2 little upwards. So now what you can do, the simplest way to do, which I usually follow rather than following anything, finding out the difference between these two values. Okay, what is the difference between these two values? 1.4841 minus 0.9868, that is 4973. Write down 0.4973. now this, the difference is for the complete one. Okay, the difference is for the complete one, that is 0.4973. but I want for 2.768, means I need to find out the value for this 0.768, not for the 1. So what can I do? I will multiply this 0.768 to this part. Now after multiplying this, we will get this value. Okay, now this value is for this difference part, 0.768. You can do two things: either you can add this value to this part, means 0.9868, you can add this to, or you can do one more thing, from this you can subtract this as well. Clear? No, it will not come after you will subtract this value from 1.481, because this value is for 768. Okay, so you, otherwise if you want to subtract it, then you need to find the value for I guess 1000 minus 768. You need to find the value for 232. Okay, so when it's the value for 768, you can only add this value in the second year. So here the value is in front of you. Clear? So now we got the VAR percentage. This is what the VAR percentage. So amount of portfolio into VAR percentage, we will get the VAR amount. Clear? Now our last part is our cash flow. Okay, so when we are mapping the cash flow, we need to understand first of all that this question will not appear in the examination, because the calculation is quite difficult. So first of all, I will tell you what's happening so that we will understand the process as a whole. But yes, there is something which can come in the exam, that is the calculation of undiversified VAR. That is quite simple. This is the number of years we have, these are the present value. These are the present value which we have calculated before. Let me show you. See, these are the present value of all the future cash flow. What are the future cash flow? These are the future cash flows and these are our present value. Okay, so these are our present value. Now what is this part? X into V. This is nothing but we are multiplying this 104.83 with the VAR for the first year. Now what is the VAR for the first year? 0.4696%. Okay, means 104.83 into 0.4696%, our value will be 0.4923. this is the value. So similarly we will calculate all the value, and when we will take the sum of all these value, we will get our undiversified VAR. Clear? So undiversified VAR calculation is simple. And why is it so? Because we are understanding and assuming that the correlation between all the assets into the portfolio have 1, or we can say the correlation between the different cash flows into the portfolio is 1, means we don't have any kind of correlation benefit. Clear? Can you see that there is a difference between the diversified VAR and undiversified VAR? The diversified VAR is little lower. Why is it so? Because it is assuming the benefit of correlation, means the correlation will diversify the portfolio, and when diversification will be there, the risk will be lower, and when risk will be lower, we will have the VAR will be lower. Clear? So now this VAR is calculated by multiplying the VAR with our risk matrix. We are taking into account the risk matrix. So now if we have to calculate the diversified VAR, this is the formula which we have to use, where X is nothing but the present value of all the cash flow and V is our vector of VAR, and this VAR is for the zero coupon bond return. And what is R? This is the correlation matrix. Clear? Now how we arrive to the value of 2.615 is by taking the square root of 6.840. Okay, this is important that we need to remember. Clear? Let's see the question. Which of the following method is not one of the three approaches? Obviously present value mapping, we have not done it. If the portfolio assets are perfectly correlated, portfolio VAR will be equal to undiversified VAR. Clear? Now question number 3, let's see. The VAR percentage at 95% confidence interval for the bond with maturity ranging from 1 year to 5 years are as follows. Okay, we have already seen this kind of table. A bond with portfolio of 100 million bond maturing in 2 years and 100 million bond maturing in 4 years means 2 plus 4, 6. Half of 6, 3. Why half? Because they both have the same amount. So what is my maturity? Is 3 years. What is the percentage I have to take? 1.4841. That will be multiplied with 200. 200 into 1.4841%. Clear? So without calculating we can see the value is coming close to 3. So the answer will be D. Now we are using the another method of calculating our undiversified VAR. Okay, now what is the way we are using? See, this is first we are having our year in front of us. So year is given and the portfolio cash flow is given. Now understand, this cash flow which is given to us is not the present cash flow, this is just the normal cash flow. Now we are given with the spot rate, and then we will take the present value of the cash flow, and the sum of the present value of the cash flow is $200. Now this is our VAR percentage as per the maturity. This table is also given to us in the beginning. Now what is our present value factor? So how we have received this our present value factor? The normally which we calculate, what is our spot rate? 3.5% means 1 divided by 1.035. so in this way we have calculated this value. If you want to calculate the value for second one, that is 1.039 square, we will get the value of 0.9263. clear? Now let us come to this column. So this is nothing but our VAR adjusted present value factor. See, most of the time we used to calculate the risk adjusted rate of return, okay, risk correlation adjusted return, volatility adjusted return, but now this time we are trying to calculate the present value which is adjusted by the VAR. Now this is our present value factor 9.622, that we are multiplying with 1 minus VAR percentage, 1 minus VAR percentage. So this value is in percentage. So what will be the amount? 0.9662 multiplied by 1 minus what is VAR percent. So it will be 0.004696. After solving this, we will get the value of 0.9616. Now what is the meaning of this line? That meaning is important for the examination purpose. This says that there is 95% chance that the value of the bond will fall to 0.9616. Why 95% chance? Because the VAR percentage given is for the 95% confidence interval. Means the VAR, this VAR adjusted present value says that the value of the bond, value of the 1 year bond will fall to 0.9616 with the 95% probability. So now this present value 0.9616 will be multiplied to our present value. No, it won't be multiplied with the present value because it's already the value of the present value factor. So we are multiplying with this line. Why? Because this is the portfolio cash flow and this is the present value factors. Okay, we cannot multiply the present value factor with the present value. We have to multiply with the future value with the present value factor. So we will take the value and now we are taking the difference between these two. Means what was the value originally and what is the value of the portfolio after taking into account the VAR. Clear? At 95% VAR. Means there is 5% chance that your loss will exceed for $2.67. Means what is the difference between them? Clear? But there is 95% chance that the VAR of the portfolio will not exceed, or the loss of the portfolio will not exceed 197.33. Or in other words, if we are concerned with only this part, we will say that there is 95% chance that the loss will not exceed 2.67, but yes, there is 5% chances that loss will exceed $2.67. okay, so this is the value after loss and this is the value before loss. The difference between them is the VAR, means the loss. Clear? So we will do the remaining part of this topic in next lecture. Okay, thank you.